WCNC Charlotte, this is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. We continue to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month here at WCNC Charlotte. And this week, we're taking a closer look at the growing influence of the Hispanic community here in the Carolinas. The most recent census data shows there are now more than 1 million Hispanic residents in North Carolina. 170,000 of them live right here in Mecklenburg County. Statewide, the Latin American population growing more than 40% in the last decade, outpacing numbers seen nationwide. Coming up a little bit later, we're going to learn more about the growing needs of this growing community. But first, a look at the massive role Hispanics will play in the upcoming election, now less than a month away. Joining us now is Lariza Garzon. She oversees North Carolina operations for the Hispanic Federation. Lariza, your organization does many things to empower the Hispanic community. Chief among them, at least right now, working to get folks registered to vote. Is that right?
Good morning. That's right. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Talk about your efforts to get folks registered and why that's important.
So the Hispanic Federation and other nonprofit organizations, businesses and institutions have joined forces to bring the Latino power up, to make sure that people are registering to vote, to make sure that they're making it to the polls. And of course, it's important because the Latino population is growing here in North Carolina, and many of our community members need to learn more about how to get involved in the civic process and how to make sure that their voices are heard.
And that leads me to my next point, is that you're launching sort of an initiative to get voters out to the polls. How are you going to do this? What is that initiative?
That's right. So we've been working with the community since March. We've been going to places where the community frequents, like supermarkets, the Hispanic festivals, churches, universities, places like that, to tell people about the elections, to register them to vote. And now that the registration period is going to be over on October 14th, we're going to focus on getting everybody to the polls. Again, by doing different activities that will encourage them to go vote, and also to provide them with things like transportation or just information about the elections.
I assume, is this nonpartisan, I would assume? Is this just basically getting people to vote regardless of how they want to vote?
That's right. We are a nonpartisan organization, and our goal is really that people feel represented, that people feel like their voice counts, and that they're being heard by our elected officials. And so what better way to be counted and being heard than to be a part of that decision-making process that, decides who's going to be representing us at the federal, state, and local level.
I think one of the important things when we have a conversation like this here on this show, on this station, is to illuminate an issue for folks who might not otherwise understand and might not have firsthand experience. So explain, there are about 200,000 Latinos in the state who are eligible to vote. And what are some of the barriers they face in getting registered?
So we know that the Latino population is growing in North Carolina, and we also know that the number of people that are voting is increasing every year. But of course, the Latino population has been historically marginalized and excluded from the political process, and many people feel like their voices are not heard. And so there's some issues that have to do with educating people and making sure that they feel included in the process. The other issue I would say is that most of the growth of the Latino population in North Carolina is from people who are born here and who may be the first people in their family who are eligible to vote. So they're kind of like, exploring this opportunity and this right for the first time in their family. And it makes it very important that we do community education through campaigns like La Voz de Mi Gente, so that they know how the political process works and how they can, go raise their voice. Another issue would be transportation. Of course, we know in rural areas, especially here in North Carolina, there's not a lot of public transportation. And for the low-income members of our community, that might be an issue, or the issue of like missing work, things like that are also common in other populations. They also apply to the Latino community.
If your organization is successful and you get more people registered to vote and voting in a larger block, just speak to the scale you think that the Hispanic community could have when it comes to, say, this upcoming election.
Yes. Well, the state, just in North Carolina, there's more than 1 million Latino residents. And out of them, 400,000 Latinos are eligible to vote. Out of the 400,000 that are eligible, only 60% are registered. And out of those, only 59% of those voters went to vote in 2020. So we know that if we can increase the number of Latinos that make it to the poll, we can really have an impact in the elections. Just in Mecklenburg County, there's 170,000 Latinos. And when you think about it, almost 30% of all the Latinos in North Carolina are 18 years old. That means that the number of Latinos that are eligible to vote will continue to increase each year. And so the more that we encourage them to be involved, the more that we encourage them to vote, the more of an impact they will have both at the local and state races.
Well, and we know some of these, especially state races, are so close, you know, coming down to just a few thousand here or there, that any large group can make a big difference in the outcome. A new poll from NBC shows Republicans are cutting into Democrats' lead among Latino voters. What do you make of this shift? What does that say? We know no group is monolithic in this country, whether it's Hispanic population, voters of color in general, the gay population. What do you think this means about the Hispanic voting bloc?
Well, our community is just as diverse as any other community. We are nonpartisan in our campaign, and we respect this diversity. We know that people have different points of views and different concerns depending on their age, their identity, their geographic area. And so instead of doing an analysis about which parties the Latinos support, we really focus on the issues that affect them and what our elected officials are doing to solve these issues and to make sure that they reach out to our community all the time and not just during election year, because that is one of the issues. I feel like a lot of people in our community feel like they're only talked to when there's an election. And so we need to change that. We need to make sure that people who are running for office understand the importance of our voice, the impact that we can have on the state, and that they continuously work with our population to address the issues that affect them, and that we are not seen as just one group of people, but just the diverse community that we are. That's why it's important to have campaigns like ours, because we are just asking people to get informed about the issues and to vote with their conscience and to make sure that their voices are being heard.
All right, Lariza Garzon, thank you so much for coming on and talk to us. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right, more Flashpoint after this.